Probably needs very little introduction. Paul Mackney has been a long-time trading activist in Birmingham and nationally, and probably somewhere in his wallet's got a membership card to the Awkward Squad for life. So.
It's good to be back in Birmingham, away from the tremendous condescension you sometimes get in London. I'll hold you to mic, sorry. And I said it's good to be back in Birmingham. I keep in touch through friends and as a nice member of the Trades Council, or Trades Union Council as we now call it. Last week we read in the paper that the twin, as we knew her, over the road from us was being expected to work in Poundland for nothing, otherwise lose her benefit. We have in Birmingham, because most things have been said tonight. I came with about 3 possible speeches and they've all been said, except for so I'm sort of doing something slightly different. We've got in Birmingham a model of how we should be fighting back. We've got the example from 1972 of Saltley Gates with mass solidarity. We've got the example of the community solidarity from 1984 when we kept miners' families in food for a year, and for your chair I give you the book Birmingham and the Miners' Strike, which sums up what we've done. And I bought one off Mary the other week because I didn't think there were any left, and I found 5 in the attic, so I'll give Mary 4 more to sell for good causes. I could double the price, Mary. I remember how each Wednesday in the Sparkhill Labour Club we used to get people bringing in piles of food and miners coming in from all over the country. And what we need to remember is that Saltley Gate involved Left Labour, the Communist Party, the International Socialists. People talk about Arthur Scargill standing on the toilet outside Saltley Gate. The other person on there was Arthur Harper, who was one of the first people I met when I came to Birmingham, and they said, "This is Arthur Harper, he's unusual, he's in the International Socialists." It also involved Irish protesters who'd been at a demonstration the week before over Bloody Sunday. Students were involved. In fact, they served breakfast to all the pickets on the day that was successful, and it was good to see them doing the same back in London with some of the strikes recently. 40,000 engineering workers walked off the job. There were people who came from British Leyland Tractors, Rover, Dunlop, there were the women from SU, Dropforge, GEC, many of them names which have been destroyed by Maggie Thatcher. Sorry, what was that? Right, other people here will remember other places. When I was at the Trade Union Studies Centre down in Digbeth, we got a mural painted which is now only on display in little bits, I think. I'd like to see that mural put back together again. The best bit of it is the policeman's horse. They've closed the gates and the horse is walking back with its head down and all the police marching away, because that was the breakthrough at the time. I hope next year, which is the 40th anniversary, you'll have the energy to do something to celebrate that event. I'm sure Banner Theatre, where's Dave Rogers? He must be somewhere. I'm sure they can reactivate the Saltley Gate show, and to enable them to reactivate the Saltley Gate show, we've put this round on the chairs, because if you go, this incidentally will be double the size when it eventually comes out of the broadsheet. This is just the proof. But if you look at the blue column at the bottom, there's the advert for Rise Up, which is single of the 1st of May band, and I think we need to do everything we can to spread that so it becomes a Christmas #1. I think we are at a turning point. I mean, ATL was mentioned. ATL used to be the Assistant Masters and Mistresses Association. For short, it was called AMA. we used to say it's called AMA because they say, am I going to do nothing for my pay rise again this year? Actually, this year, we've seen AMA ATL now involved on the pension strike. If AMA can get involved and be in the front, lots of other people can be as well. But as well as the mass strike action we also need, as Tony Benn says on that leaflet I've just given out, we need to develop and sustain an umbrella organisation to bring together the local and national campaigns to defend education. We need to build a network of people which unites the Friends of Tubbletown Library in Dorset with the most militant RMT King's Cross branch. And I think we can do it, and that's been the purpose which the Coalition of Resistance has been trying to follow, which is why I got involved with them. But I also want to say I learned from the miners' strike that, and when we organised to feed all those people, that solidarity doesn't just happen. You have to work bloody hard at it with a totally non-sectarian approach. But we need to remember, that's how we got rid of people. Saltygate 72, miners' strike 74. Tory governments aren't invincible. How did we get rid of Thatcher? On the streets, over the poll tax. I still haven't paid my poll tax in Birmingham. Unfortunately, my partner sitting over there got taken to court and they took it out of her wages. The hypocrisy of this government is incredible. I mean, there's been so many facts tonight, I've got a few left. Osborne would only have to work for 1.5 years on the copper-bottom, diamond-crusted, platinum-coated pension scheme that MPs have got. He'd only have to work for 1.5 years to hit the average public sector pension of 5,000. Or put another way, a public sector or a local government employee would have to work for 124 years to get a pension like Eric Pickles. The hypocrisy is breathtaking across many fronts. I just want to give one more example from recent days. As his contribution to austerity, I noticed that Charles Hendry, the energy minister responsible for climate change and making sure we don't spend too much money on electricity and the rest of it, he's just purchased a 2.5 million 20-bedroom residence in Ayrshire, and it's appropriately named Blair Castle. So we've seen a massive response, not just in this country, across the world. About a year ago, I was speaking at meetings on Greece, and people say, why are you going on about Greece? I said, I'm going on about Greece because they're fighting back. In Portugal today, there is a general strike. They're fighting back. We're part of that movement. We saw, I've forgotten his name, Pink Floyd's son anyway, Charlie Gilmore, is it? He was castigated for dishonouring the memorial for the dead when he climbed up the cenotaph. Well, actually, the real memorial for the people who fought in those wars is not the cenotaph, it's the NHS.
Absolutely.
It's free education. And it's the welfare state. And I see my duty, and I'm sure many of us here see their duty, as handing that on, only better, to our children. I think that the Occupy movement has done a tremendous amount for our cause. People are now talking about what sort of society we want. The mantra about the 1% has really got through. Now, I've got some, everyone else has been giving figures, so I've got some figures for you. The wealth is absolutely incredible. The idea that the money isn't there to save it is ridiculous. The 1,000 wealthiest people in this, not so much a trickle down as a spout up economy, They are now worth an estimated just under 400 billion. I'm going to show you in a minute a way that you work these figures out, so bear with me. If that money was redirected to local public services, every local authority would receive a bonus of about £1 billion. So hopefully it wouldn't be frittered on excessive directors and assistant directors' pay, as has happened in Birmingham, I noticed, where 47 share about 100,000 each, and where this year Stephen Hughes, his package has risen by 25%, hasn't it, to 233,000. I looked that up when I understood that he wasn't allowing this meeting to go ahead at one stage. The directors of the top 100 companies, the FTSE companies, have awarded themselves a 49% pay rise this year. It's okay, we're all in it together. The highest paid chief executive gets 18.5 million. I'll show you how to measure that in a minute. The average pay for the top chief executive is almost 4 million. That's of interest to this city because it's 3.8 something million. That's roughly what the head of resources at Cadbury, the head of human remains at Cadbury's got in 2008. And his name, actually, since he stacked away a bob or two, including 700,000 a year pension, his name is Bob Stack. Now, that gave me an idea. Take a £20 note, take it from me, and it's got Adam Smith on the back, who incidentally was in favour of redistribution of wealth from the rich to the poor, but they keep that quiet. Take a £20 note, take it from me, I'll write it down here, it's 0.113 millimetres thick. Right? Actually, it weighs about a gram. If you had £1 million worth of 20s, that would weigh about 50 kilograms. You'd have to pay extra at the airports. Of course, you'd have a bit to help you do it. But don't forget that you could do it next Wednesday, we now understand. But also, they don't check private airports anyway. But if you measure out a stack of £20 notes, an unemployed person has a stack of about 20 centimetres. That's about that much. That's what their stack for the year would be. The person on what I think is an inflated estimate of average pay, but they always say 25,000, they will have 4 foot 8 inches, or if you want it in centimetres, 141 centimetres. So the average person on 25,000. That's about 3 Guardians high, I worked out on the train on the way. I'd hold them up. I'd hold them up if you wanted. The average top FTSE chief executive, the top 100, their stack is equivalent to 5 double-decker buses. I can tell you what the calculation is later for a small fee. The most greedy FTSE 100 chief executive stack is just under 24 double-decker buses high. Of course, Sir Philip Green a few years ago transferred 1.2 billion tax-free to his wife's Monaco bank account. Incidentally, all the stuff about tax havens, most of them are British dependencies. They could bloody well do something about tax havens if they wanted to. Maybe not Switzerland. But he transferred 1.2 billion tax-free to his wife's Monaco bank account. My calculator gave up at that point, so I just see it as your homework for when I come back. But I reckon the equivalent you could probably use up the whole of the Birmingham fleet in order to get the amount. Let's not forget, Honest Dave Cameron, he was promoting himself as just an ordinary Dave, and then the Daily Mail readers got a bit worried that they weren't getting real quality as a leadership. So the Daily Mail ran an article about his background. His estimated family fortune is 35 million. That's about 45 buses, by the way. And no one should decry him this inheritance, because he clearly deserves it. On the surface, he's a pompous git, but underneath it all, his royal lineage makes him 5th cousin twice removed to the Queen, albeit on the wrong side of the sheet. So the conclusion is simple. We had riots in the summer, but the real looters, day to day, are these wealthy people. We're going to get a coalition of resistance badge which says we simply can't afford the rich. The government are trying to raise pensions to make public sector workers pay for problems caused by international finance. These governments, incidentally, in Greece, Italy, the key people were all employed by Goldman Sachs. Who taught the governments of Greece at the beginning of this century how to hide away the problems so that they weren't discovered till too late? Goldman Sachs. They provided the methodology. We need a tax on the rich, and we need to stop a tax on the poor. That's what November the 30th is about. And we need to get ready for the distractions next year. I've already dug out and polished an old badge which says, "Fight the cuts, stuff the Jubilee."